Social media interactions become interesting only when it is two-way. You must get a fair chance to interact with the person you follow or the person whose videos you watch. I have started this new initiative, Ask Milestones to Wealth Anything, AMA in short, through which all of you can stay in touch, ask me questions you like to ask, clear your doubts on personal finance, learn more about Milestones to Wealth and about our PMS products, and stay connected. So, this brings us closer. I am able to be closer to you, to help you in whatever way I can. You feel closer by asking whatever you wish to, and we grow together, helping each other along the way. So fill in this form and stay connected through Ask Milestones to Wealth Anything. I'm going to talk to you on the topic when an advisor is needed the most. I look back at my own journey. Right from my first investment till the point I crossed a certain threshold of capital, I always was constantly advised. I had a circle of experienced, competent and correct people who would guide me with every decision. If I wanted to move towards a particular decision, I would validate their opinion. Effectively, they would say no, and that was the end of the discussion. If they said yes, then I went ahead. Today, when I see new investors, those who are coming newly to the market, I observe to see who is advising them and whether they have validated the advisor. Because most of us are thinking that validating the advice is enough and price validation is sufficient. If somebody tells you to do something and it goes up next week, you think the person is right. But after 2 years, the same advice may not stand the test of time. Therefore, you have to validate the person, his integrity, his competence and his alignment to your interest. Now, these are not simple things, which is why I feel that the more we are in the technological world, digitally doing things, exchanging thoughts, exchanging opinions, taking judgments from others, we don't have a validation process. We look at popular opinions and take advice from popular opinions. This is completely unvalidated opinion. Contrast this with what I did. I validated the person and then I validated their opinions. They validated my opinions. It was interactive. There was clear fiduciary responsibility. It's not as if we didn't make mistakes in this process, but we quickly learned from them. We took ownership. That's the most critical part of any advisory interaction, ownership. In the digital era, there is very little ownership. In fact, there is negative ownership. You are told many things, and if you follow those things and it goes wrong, it is your responsibility. In my view, that is not how advice should be exchanged, implemented or reviewed, which is why having an advisor from the beginning is very, very critical. It is very important that an investor has an advisor from day one till he reaches a threshold capital. I told you that I was always listening to advice till I reached a threshold capital, by which time I had gained enough experience to advise myself or to advise others. I still continued that practice of taking advice. I do it to this day. It's not as if I cannot make decisions, but I always take advice on my decisions. So, Having a formal structure is very, very critical, especially in the early years of advice, which is why this entire DIY thing is very macho and not sensible. It's about you telling others that you're good enough and that you can manage on your own, and you telling others that maybe they are not as good as you. To my mind, such macho behavior is not needed in investing. We need to have a method where we don't make mistakes, and we need to have people who are committed to that process. If we have that going right, then the successes will take care of us. Now what we are doing with this macho DIY mindset is that we go all over the place, seek opinions from all around, and then implement it in a way which probably may not be the best, and often find ourselves in a spot of bother and fear. Then we are forced to respond in a certain way, and our response is typically knee-jerk. All this only teaches me one thing: technology, digital adoption, easy access to information overload has not helped investors choose advice right. I was looking at the fund choices made on the platforms because that is where digital interaction happens at its best. I find that at the peak, most of these digital investors have bought tech funds or tech stocks early this year. Most of them own stocks which have appeared in very popular PMS portfolios that haven't delivered and will probably take a very long time correction to deliver. So this whole process of adoption of advice is extremely weak because of the validation of the advisor, which is found wanting. That is why a formal relationship and engagement with an advisor in the early days, followed sincerely till you reach a threshold capital, will help you do the journey with the right handholding, with accountability, with involvement, and with empathy. Now, many people want to do DIY and then get advice from somebody else. I want to openly tell you one thing, that advisors don't have economics to deal small clients. In fact, even MFDs will not take a very small client because there is no economics in servicing that client. It is only the platforms who are interested in the small investors. But platforms may not do justice to the small investors because what we have seen consistently in their front window, the display window in which they sell funds or make you prefer certain funds, that display window has been rather compromised, it's manipulated, and it is not as clean as we think. So, you will always make one or two wrong choices on your own. That cost is definitely higher than the cost of having an advisor. And if you are finding an advisor who will advise you from the early stage to your threshold capital, which could be 50 lakhs or 1 crore, you are very lucky, because an advisor with that level of competence probably won't even be able to afford his time to you, or rather you will not be able to afford his time. This is a home truth which the advisory system is not telling people. And I think it is their fault, because people think that they are overpaying advisors. On the contrary, they are not even paying advisors the value which they pay the delivery boy of Swiggy or the plumber who comes to fix a tap. It's not as if small investors are going to overpay advisors. They are actually not going to be able to afford advisors. So advisors who are willing to work with small investors must be respected, seen differently, and engaged with in a nice, professional and empathetic way. That's good for the investor, it's good for the advisor. Otherwise, nobody is gaining nothing. This is a home truth which the advisory ecosystem is not telling you. And this is a truth which your platforms are never going to tell you, because To them, it's just a game of how many investors, how many folios, what is the AUM, and how sticky it is. Who is calculating whether you're making money or not? Where is the discussion about how to improve your returns? You may be saving cost, but you are definitely not getting service. And you are not doing justice to your own portfolio. All this tells me that having an advisor from day one till you reach a threshold capital is super critical for you to remain in equity investing and to survive. If you survive, you will thrive and you will have good company to make sure that your investment journey is a successful one and a long lasting one. What you pay, what costs you incur in this process will be very incidental but very, very important and critical to the end outcome. That is a basic understanding which you must have, and you must get the best minds to work with you when you need them the most, which is when you are in early stage investing. Thank you for watching this video.